Welcome to the Adam Thompson Show. Cutting edge.
He just told you to shut the f*** up.
No holds barred.
Thanks for not calling me a liar, son of a...
The latest trending topics, legal cases, and social issues. In your face commentary on all subjects. Adam Thompson.
You can't handle the truth.
Adam Thompson brings his 25-year experience as a high-profile criminal and civil trial lawyer and gritty New York street smarts and attitude to the studio.
Real, unbiased talk.
Those who want respect, give respect.
You never know what he'll say next. This is the Adam Thompson Show. Here's your host, Adam Thompson.
Good evening, everybody out there. Welcome to the Adam Thompson Show. It's that time, my favorite time of the week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, as always, for all those newbies out there that are being turned on to the show for the first time, because you heard that it's a happening kind of scene, and it's fun, and there's good conversation, intelligent conversation, different conversation. Thanks for joining us, and keep spreading the word. I like that we got the Adam Thompson Show army building out there, more and more people getting hyped and tuning in and listening. Thanks for all those great tweets and emails and Facebook comments that keep coming in. Visit us, www.adamthompsonlaw.com. That's everything Adam Thompson about my law practice, cases I'm doing, things in the news, our website for the radio show that has all the links to the current and past shows, the extras, all the little goodies out there if you just can't get enough of when you listen to us on the radio. And, of course, our Facebook and Twitter page. Tweet us at hashtag Adam Thompson Law. Keep those comments coming. This is going to be a great show this week. Returning guests, always with something provocative and insightful to say. Roger Stone. Of course, we'll be getting in the pit and arguing with our expert panel on every trending story that's out there. So I can't wait to get to that. That's always one of my favorites. And just real quick, breaking news just happened. I'm, of course, referring to the verdict in the Aaron Hernandez trial. Guilty, all counts, first-degree murder. Boy, you don't even have to wait for a sentencing date. You know, you usually get convicted, then there's a whole adjournment, and you prepare, bring in different witnesses and people who are going to testify and offer victim impact statements and things like that, and prepare for a big sentencing date. Well, not here, folks. In Massachusetts, you get convicted, first-degree murder, boom, mandatory life in prison, no possibility of parole. So big sack, ball game is over. Hernandez is out. He'll be spending the rest of his life in jail. Will there be appeals? People tweeted me once I posted this online. Of course there's going to be appeals, because the big issue in this case is, you know, he was convicted basically on circumstantial evidence, and they didn't recover a murder weapon. There's really no eyewitness. And people are saying, well, what was the motive? You know, when you got that many questions about what happened, there's obviously going to be an appeal, because they're going to say that the evidence doesn't support the verdict. But the big appeal issue here is going to be the section that he was convicted under the law was for extreme atrocity or cruelty. That was the category of the murder first degree section in the statute that they found him responsible for. And the big thing is, you have to show the degree of consciousness and the suffering of the person that was killed, the victim, or it could be based on the extent of the injuries or the number of blows or how he was killed, things of that nature. And the record does have that kind of information or testimony in it. They could also say just basically the indifference shown by the suspect, by the defendant, Aaron Hernandez. And hey, listen, the big flaw in the case was once the defense team, and in my opinion, huge blunder, huge, let me make it clear, huge blunder in the closing argument, they say basically for the first time that he was there and witnessed the killing, but how do you know he was the guy that pulled the trigger, implying that it was one of the other co-defendants that are arrested and going to be separately tried were the trigger men, that maybe he was just there and happened to witness it but wasn't involved. Maybe he recovered or held the gun from them and that was his limited involvement. But once you throw that out there, it's like, listen, what rational juror who uses common sense isn't going to say to themselves, if Aaron Hernandez wasn't there because he either set it up, was involved in it, or was the trigger guy himself, if someone that he was supposedly friends with and close to, someone who is engaged or was going to marry his wife's sister, if you witnessed him getting killed, wouldn't you immediately go to the police and report it? And the thing is, we all know he didn't. So if he really wanted to show that he wasn't involved and was an innocent bystander, that would have been the conduct of an innocent bystander. Go and report it immediately to the police. He didn't do that. And the other thing is, when he spoke to the owner of the Patriots, he gave him a version that didn't jive with the timeline, saying he was in a club at the time that the victim was killed. And when he made the comment, he didn't even know what the time was that the victim was killed. You know, was it in the morning, the afternoon, the night, the wee hours of the morning? How do you make a comment on that before the time is even released? Many gaps in what he said. And of course, we all know infamous videos from his home from different locations. You know, it shows him and the two co-defendants with the victim leaving into some storage facility area, but then only 3 people coming out. You know, 4 minus 3 leaves 1. So that one person's up behind. We see who the other 3 are, the defendants in the case. Doesn't look good for him, and it appears in one video that he's holding what appears to be a Glock. There's so many things circumstantial. While most circumstantial cases don't cut mustard and there's too many gaps and it doesn't present a clear picture, there was enough here for the jury to convict. And I'll tell you, they were in there a long time, 5 to 6 days. They definitely gave it time and thought it all out and discussed it. In my opinion, I thought the only thing that might happen, because I always thought he'd go down on all charges, but there's always that possibility because of media, you know, celebrity, because he's a high-paid athlete. Some people get blindsided or they get big-eyed, and there's one person in that jury that you just got to convince to hold out, and then you get a hung jury. And that's what seems to happen here, that there was one holdout juror, and they spent all this time convincing that one holdout, maybe even a second one, to change their vote. And then you get the unanimous verdict. So Aaron Hernandez, guilty all counts, life without parole. With that said, that's the big legal case of the week. And, of course, we know everything else going on, all the trending news stories that are out there. So let's get to them on The Adam Thompson Show. All right, everybody, it's that time on The Adam Thompson Show. It's weekly debate time as I bring in some of my favorite guests, put them in the pit, let them get down and dirty. Maybe we'll turn it into a steel cage match. But this week we got excellent people coming in to discuss all the top trending stories and breaking news. Our buddy from down south, down under, our buddy Rocky D, one of the best lively radio talk show hosts out there. Check him out at rockyd.com. One of my favorite political strategists, Jessica Tarlov. You can find her all over on Newsmax, CNN, all different places. She's always popping up. And the co-founder and managing editor-in-chief of the Global Dispatch, Brandon Jones. All right, everybody, welcome to this panel.
Hey.
Hi.
And hello, Jessica, whoever you are. Come on out of Charleston, man.
You are.
Yeah, come on out of Charleston. I'll give you the politically incorrect history tour of Charleston.
Here we go. All right, so let's get down to it. Shocking to me, the new agreement between the White House and Obama and Congress over an Iran bill. Supposedly, there was a unanimously approved bill that got the support of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that would give lawmakers a say on the deal with Iran and the nuclear weapons exchange and so on. And Obama seems to. I say I'm shocked because we never get the aisles to agree and cross and work things out. So is this a thing that's just we're too optimistic, or is this really going to go through? Jessica, we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, it's going to go through. It's going to pass the Senate, and then Boehner's going to bring it to the House floor soon. But I think the real mistake is people are looking at this as a victory for Congress, and it really isn't. Obama got a lot of the things that he wanted out of this, right? He got the amount of days that Congress has to review it down to 30. He got it so that Congress doesn't get to judge based on whether or not Iran is a terrorist state, which sends a really bad message, I think, to the Iranian government and also other rogue states that, you know, don't have our best interests at heart. And Democrats, if they stand with Obama once the bill comes through, can still prevent it from even getting to his desk with a filibuster and then sustaining the veto. So at the end of the day, I think it's exciting that we had bipartisan compromise amongst 18. I think it was, and that we'll get it through. at least the two houses. But I think at the end of the day, Obama's still holding all the cards here, and that we may not see the best nuclear deal at the end, when this is all said and done.
All right, Rocky D, what's your take on it?
My take is on this, I scratched my head so much on this, I made a bald spot on the back of my head. At least that's my story. Listen, I don't understand. I mean, the Republicans run the Senate. The Republicans now run the House of Representatives. Too, they have a majority. True, they have to get a few Democrats on their side in the Senate to get things, shoved past the pretender-in-chief. But I don't understand why they want, Iranian oil is a good thing, but building the Keystone Pipeline is a bad thing. I don't get this. I don't understand what the advantage for the United States here is. And I don't think Obama has the best interests of the United States at heart. He has been at odds with middle America and conservative America since the day he stepped into the White House. So I don't understand why the compromise. The Republicans or the conservatives, whichever one you want to think, I mean, they could have dug their heels in and everything would have been fine. I don't like this deal.
All right, so we got to go to you, Brandon. You're going to be the tiebreaker vote because Jessica seems to think it's good, and obviously Rocky's against it, and they both make some valid points on both sides. Me personally, before I let you speak your word, it's a little confusing to me because to not even draw a line in the sand about certain concessions from Iran in the deal you're going to make, and the concessions I'm talking about, recognize Israel as a nation and put that to an end. Make them state that they will not sponsor or support terrorist organizations by sending weapons or put an end to rioting. That isn't done. So right now we have Iran, who has broken deals, never really followed through on anything it said it would do, has totally sidestepped everything when we sent people to inspect these nuclear sites, quote unquote, of which there were ones we didn't even know about. The list goes on and on. So what really needs to get done here, Brandon?
Well, Adam, you're going to sound like a radical asking for that. Next thing I know, you're going to ask them to stop holding rallies yelling death to America, or we're going to ask them to release the Pastor Saeed that's being jailed there illegally. It's just a horrible situation that keeps getting worse, not better. And I think that just to get the nail on the head where it doesn't really seem to play as Obama has lost a whole lot here, it actually just kind of gives him more of the power that he's looking for. It's actually kind of cemented in. The Democrats who are going along with this appear to be thinking that they're going to be able to get a little cover when it comes to foreign policy. Maybe they feel like they're going to be able to seem like they're distancing the concessions to President Obama in the public eye because people aren't going to read this, they aren't going to dive into the details, and they can kind of spin it as though this is a way of kind of regulating the deal. But at the end of the day, we're just getting in bed. We're softening the blow of this being a terrorist country. They're supporting Hamas and Hezbollah. There's money moving through. There's arms moving through. And it doesn't seem like we're really taking a hard enough stance. And, Rocky hit the nail on the head. I don't really understand where the Republicans are without a spine here. It's like we just continue to roll over and allow the one side to get what he wants. And I really don't understand it. I don't see political expediency. I don't see any ideology. I really don't know.
Well,
Bottom line, friends, if I may, do you trust Iran?
No.
Iran says they are or aren't going to do something. Do you trust them? I don't.
Right. Well, I think, Rocky, that's the point. When you have such a degree of trust issues with the people you're sitting down at the table to negotiate with, you can't forget the history. And if the history has always been they promise one thing, do something different. They say they'll allow inspectors to come in, but they don't. When they let the inspectors come in, they show them some sites, and then we find hidden sites that we never even knew. It's just one.
Right.
It's just one deep to the next that's based on a lack of trust, and it builds on that. So to make matters worse, let's segue into the next topic. It's all like now that it's point they'll get. And of course, we all know how disastrous that is. But the other story that has me concerned is Russia is now stating that they're going to go lax on their deal, and they're going to deliver a sophisticated air defense S-300 missile system to Iran. Now, Russia says it's a completely defensive system. It has no abilities to obviously wage an attack on any of our allies or interests in that area, of course, Israel I'm talking about. But the fact they knocked down any kind of attack against it, doesn't that basically now guarantee they're going to get nukes because they could now defend against an Israeli or even a Saudi attack to go there and knock out these locations? I'll start with you on this, Brandon. This concerns me. I mean, I'm just shocked that this is happening.
Well, it almost seems like we're hearing George Bush making axis of evil comparisons here too, right? We're seeing the partnerships and the handshakes deepen the trenches and make things worse. You know, if we're going to not have concessions and continue to sit in a place of weakness, well, Russia sees us as weak. We want to see what we're going to do, whether they're testing the waters, they want to see how we're going to respond, and it's a win-win for both their sides, right? If we intercede or we try to stop the situation, we're back in negotiation, okay, fine, and then that kind of parlays that situation. But they've seen the administration is weak. The administration is, you know, as Jessica pointed out, they're not a terrorist country now. We're not going to really require the kind of inspections that we originally thought we were going to ask for, these kinds of things. Well, now we're going to build a defense system around the country, and we're supposed to believe that they're going to adhere to any of these rules. Well, Russia's digging in even deeper with them. So we've seen this a little bit with how they behave with Syria. We're now seeing it with Iran. We're really seeing a very strong divide now in the Middle East, and this administration doesn't really know which end is up in a lot of ways. I think it's, you know, there's a lot of debate, right? Is it political expediency, like this is what he actually thinks he wants to do, it's ideology, or is it actually just incompetence? And reality really doesn't make a difference. At the end of the day, we're making Israel more and more vulnerable to a nasty attack.
Now, let me go to you, Rocky D. When was the last time you saw or ever heard the Saudis say to Israel, we'll open up airspace in case you guys want to bring the Air Force through and do an airstrike on them? But now, even if they did that, if they have this air defense system, it's so sophisticated, they're saying even if Israel sends in a whole, platoon of fighter jets to do this, they may be able to knock them out of the sky, and we won't be able to get access to them. Doesn't that just embolden them more? Now they got a great defense, and they're about to get a great offense. What do you think?
Right. Well, bottom line is, you hope that, the old cartoon of the guy holding the gun backwards and pulling the trigger. Maybe. But the thing is that when it comes to the West, I mean, America, we never sell anything to anyone. And I know a couple of spooks in the CIA. I know guys that work in the system. And the thing is, they all say the same. We never sell anything to anyone that we can run, shoot down, or capture. Now, Russia selling in this anti-aircraft system is nothing but a thumb on the nose and twiddling the fingers of Putin to Obama. He has no regard for Obama whatsoever. And you can see it in the pictures when the two are together. The looks of disdain where Putin just looks over Obama like, what a jerk. Now, you think he would be doing this if a guy like Reagan was in office right now? I doubt it. We got here with the aircraft system is Russia saying, look, if you're going to go bomb their systems out, we're going to give them a way to defend themselves. But I don't see anybody attacking Iran. Nobody's attacking Iran left and right. Basically, the other Arab countries who want to do things westernized, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, people who are supposed to be our friends, I don't trust them either completely, they are secretly saying to themselves, we hope somebody stops Iran from being nutty, okay? We hope somebody stops. They are thinking, I think, that they hope somebody, us, stops Iran from blowing up the entire Middle East and making things worse. After all, you've got to realize that there are modernized Middle Eastern countries. They want to do the same thing we do. If they want to grow and prosper, move into the future, and you can't do that when you got the year 1100 A.D. over in Iran coming up behind you.
Yeah, well, it's hard. So, Jessica, what do you think about this? Is there any logic to any of this? What does America need to do? What does Obama
there's
need
a
to
logic
say?
on Putin's behalf. I mean, there's not much of a logic, certainly, on what we're doing in response. And I add to the mix because I agree with much of what's been said, which is a rarity. So I'm pretty excited by that. And add the fact that, we're taking Cuba off the terror list. And we know that Cuba works with Venezuela. We know Venezuela is backed by Iran and Russia and Syria. And, kind of every which way, we're allowing terrorists to have a bigger hold on us and our interests. And, I mean, also to Putin's power play or whatever we want to call it, we threw these huge sanctions on him. He's found a way to make money anyway, right? The economy's done for a little while, and then articles are coming out about how actually underneath it all, Russia's going to start booming again really soon. I mean, they're still making inroads in Ukraine, which no one's talking about anymore. I mean, we have a legitimate civil war going on there that's fallen off the front page, the second page, the third page, the fourth page. And all the while we're running around.
You're making very good points, which doesn't support the Obama administration, which is really the issue. I mean, is Obama really looked at by the rest of the world as a modern-day Chamberlain? Like, is anyone saying, hey, is anyone like Churchill over in the United States? Is anyone stepping up and drawing a line?
Well, you got to remember that he gave the Buster chill back, and that was an insult to begin with. Okay, he gave that back. Bottom line is we need to put in here soon. You know, and it can't be too quick for me. That is a little. You got to be a tough guy. I mean, the president is once in a wing that big stick. If I was,
that I think of that as Secretary of State, but she is a strong militarism, which is really what we need right now. You're talking. We'll come to the table with you, and when there's going to be a legitimate rhetoric behind what we're saying. I think that's
point. Let me announcing war, but just the only exception out of what you said, Jessica, is, you know, she was Secretary of State so long, we never saw any of that tough talk towards these other nations.
I would disagree with that. I really would. I mean, I would say
Brandon,
that.
What do you think? Did you think you could
down on, and you wanted me to hand the keys to the to her track, and dealing with the Middle East is now on fire. Of course, we didn't even really touch on, the Yemen situation has spiraled totally out of control under this administration. It's the point where the Saudis have had to intercede to bring the Shiites back under control. So again, you're back into this big split, right? You have Iran, Syrian Shiites who are now working with Yemen terrorists and now are, building this strong crew. You have a woman that is kind of behind a lot of ideas and think tanks of trying to help prop up the Muslim Brotherhood and kinds of things. Now are we supposed to, let me go right to you, Jessica, we're supposed to just ignore that they have been remotely involved with supporting Muslim Brotherhood, leaving Libya just in a state of and all that. Well, see, I just don't see, I got 2 and 2 to make 4 there. You're going to have to help me with that one.
Well, jump in, Jessica.
No, I'm not asking, sorry. Yeah, I'm not asking anyone to look at anything, and I'm not a Hillary apologist on foreign policy at all. Are you
a Clinton fan, Jessica? Are you a Clinton supporter, of the Hillary supporter, Jessica? Are you? Okay, why?
Yeah.
Why? Is she? Are you one of those people that says that it's time for a woman president? I had somebody told me that 2 nights ago.
I mean, believe me, I have no problem with it, and I would welcome it if it's the right person for the job. I believe in this field of candidates that Hillary Clinton is that person.
Yeah, I don't see. I don't see what.
But Jessica, I want to hear you comment though about, because I think Brandon makes some good points. Her recent track record is going to be under close scrutiny when debate time comes. If she's the anointed one for the Democrats, how does she really respond to all those moments? Because the track record is not good. If she was a horse in a race and you went by past performance, you would not be betting on her. She'd be a long shot.
If you're going just on foreign policy, and I can talk about foreign policy, and what I would say is that also at the end of the day, she was an employee of President Obama's, right? And she's made clear in her book and in speeches since then that she did disagree with him on a number of issues. That does not mean she didn't favor the Russian reset. We know she did, and we know that was a bomb. We know Libya was a bomb. We saw Benghazi questions, all of these things. But we also know that she negotiated a ceasefire in the Middle East. We know that we wouldn't even have been at the table with Iran. I know that we won't know which way this goes until the summer, but that's an important thing. And we also know that people took her a hell of a lot more seriously than they take our president and John Kerry. So if we want to talk about
we all know. Hey, Adam, mind if I bust in here?
No, go on. I love it. Keep it rolling.
We all know that Hillary would be a tougher president than Barack Obama. Heck, Taylor Swift would be a tougher president than Barack Obama. Okay? I mean, the thing is that Hillary's a little toughy. I know this for a fact because my uncle lived 4 doors away from now, passed away. And all that kind of. He was look this way. So many negatives on her, and the age thing is not even a fact. I don't know why Rubio spotted out. Some things she has to answer for them. She has not answered for any of these things. The erased emails. She hasn't erased. I mean, we'll have to give you the list. You know the list. She hasn't answered for any of it.
But there is going to be a time she's going to answer to that. So let's.
And it'll be during the debates. I want to tell you what you're going to look for, Adam and Jessica and Brandon. Here's what you're going to look for in the debates if Hillary makes it all the way through. Okay, one-on-one against whoever. You're going to look to see the same thing you saw with Obama and those questions during the Obama-Romney debate. You see that in every debate with the mainstream pop culture, so-called news, the monitors are going to help Hillary along. They're not going to say, what happened to those emails? What makes you think you can erase them? It's government property. They're not going to ask those kind of questions.
And Brandon, let me have Brandon jumped in. Brandon,
Yeah, Rocky, I really don't think it even matters. Look at Mitt Romney made fun of when he talked about Russia being the biggest enemy, and he actually tried to talk about actually being serious about foreign policy. Because I have to be honest, the Democratic supporters, the ones that are going to back Hillary, they're really not going to care a lot of this kind of stuff about Hillary. She's so interesting.
Give me the candidates then. I mean, we know who's the potential pool out there.
It's way too early.
They're all going to be running out. But, I mean, you look at a Marco Rubio announced, Chris Christie saying he's going to jump back in again. Rand Paul already announced. Do you think any of these guys could take her down in a debate? Because regardless of that, Hillary is going to debate.
No, I don't know. I don't think she does so well in the public.
She does well. I would disagree with that. I think that she's. No. I think Tate is actually she's probably the weakest aspects of her going around Twitter using the Democratic mantra is going to serve her well. She'll motivate a lot of people, the youth groups and that kind of thing that's going to really rally behind her. When it comes to one-on-one debates and things like that, she has a history of kind of becoming screechy, becoming very much like the Tempest, the angry Tempest that kind of shows her claws. And I think that of the candidates that have come out right now, Rand Paul is the only one that's offering a foreign policy that's even different than everyone else. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm just saying, when you have this.
He's also flip-flopped on it already, and he's only 2 seconds out of the gate. So.
Yeah, but he's the only one that's got like a foreign policy conversation that at least will be an antithesis of this neoconservative, let's bomb the world stuff to try to bring order, which in the Middle East is not going to work. You're seeing country after country because we're digging a hole deeper and deeper and deeper. Now we're adding Iran and Russia with being more in the middle of the Middle East. Where's the solution? I ask them then Jeb Bush supporters, listen, what is the actual plan going to be? You don't get a pass either on not knowing what your foreign policy is going to be. And this is a push Clinton is, listen, the country is not going to be real thrilled by having that W anchor hang on our neck. So you're going to sell something that's going to be at least a little bit more palatable to the American public.
As the senior member of this panel, by probably more than a few years, I will tell you, I will poke a memory. 1999, George Bush. I was in a room with maybe 400 people, and we were watching on a big jumbo screen. And George Bush against Al Gore debating. George Bush said, "The United States will not be a country of nation builders." And the place erupts here. You couldn't even hear the next 5 minutes of the debate. Later, after September 11th, all of a sudden we become nation builders. We become so embroiled in the Middle East that they're like our stepchildren. I mean, how long are we going to be is one of the questions. And the other thing that I want to bring up to the younger colleagues here is that if it's another Bush versus Clinton election, there will be a low turnout because people will go, what, again? I mean, how long runs?
Absolutely. No, how many times have you guys heard say new ideas, fresh faces? I'm not a fan of this two-party system, which is the one reason I'm happy Rand Paul is at least in it. At least he's bringing different ideas, different take on things, which I think only helps everybody, Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives. Jessica, over to you. I want to follow up. They don't think that Hillary will be good in the debates. If I know the Clintons know how to survive. If there's an apocalypse, they'll be floating there with the cockroaches. They're going to regroup. They will school her debating. Hey, last time against that's where you soft and did drop the ball. You got to amp it up. I think she's going to come guns blazing in the debates, and whoever's going to get the nomination for the Republicans, they have to be ready. I mean, don't you think?
Absolutely. Never underestimated Clinton, and I think especially Hillary. She has a long record to fall back on and to look at a lot of it that the Republican field is really lacking in, save for Huckabee, who I actually find incredibly interesting and persuasive when he talks about, bipartisan compromise and what he was able to accomplish in Arkansas. I think socially, I can't even have a normal discussion with him. And obviously won't be casting my vote that way, but I think that he's being seriously underrated in terms of what he could bring in terms of, legislative know-how. And Jeb Bush obviously has a lot of experience, but it's amazing to me to see these guys who've been in the Senate for a couple of years railing against Obama. He was so inexperienced, we should have never elected him. Then they want us the same with him. Or,
right. It's very hypocritical. Right, you either experienced or you're not. So
Brandon, Brandon.
I want to take
Bush versus Clinton.
Yeah,
it's totally. It's a turnout nightmare, and I have to be honest. Jessica hit the nail on the head. And listen, social issues matter more to her. It's not going to matter. So whenever you hear all this criticism of the Huckabees of the world,
Well, I think a Clinton Bush is going to be like Rocky VI. It's going to get a bad turnout, bad reviews, everything. Well, listen, we're running out of time, so I want to pop more issue. Chris Christie came out today and he said, and it seems like a lot of the conservatives and Republicans are supporting him. If he was to get elected, he's going to crack down on pot, legalization of pot. I see this as a disaster personally, because I think America's to the point where it should be legalized, certainly for medical use. Do you think, and I'll start with you, Rocky D, do you think this is a Republican platform? I think that was a huge mistake to do that.
I had Governor Hickenlooper on my show, and what he told me was, because at the time he had said something very interesting. He had put out a memo to the other governors saying, hold back, don't be legalized right now, we're having some problems here. And he went through the litany of problems they were having. And in South Carolina, the state legislature has made it, they're making it legal for cannabis oil, I think it's called, cannabis oil to be available for medical purposes. Now, this is the stuff that's inside cannabis, but it doesn't make, and it's good for things like autism and things like that. I mean, I had one of the mothers in the studio with me too, and it was heartbreaking. And she said the stuff works, so she was going to move her family to Colorado just to get this stuff. So if they could get if they could get medical marijuana, it wouldn't bother me. I mean, I don't smoke pot now. I sure wouldn't if it was legal. I mean, Ron Paul one time asked a room of people, sitting right in the debate. He said if they legalized all drugs everywhere, all drugs, show of hands, how many people will go out and buy heroin? It doesn't happen that way. Just because it's legal doesn't mean you go for it. But they are having problems in Colorado, and one of the problems is that people are driving in from other states, buying it, and taking it out to the nearby states. That's one of the things.
Then you get into federal violation. Jessica, what do you think?
Right.
A huge blunder by a Republican potential candidate?
I think so. I mean, I think that Republicans really need to get more liberal, at least on things where they can get away with it, to compensate for more conservative positions on things that the base is never going to go for. And I don't really know of any sweeping social policy that works perfectly out of the gate, right? So, I mean, we've only had this for a few months, and give it time. What I think is really interesting vis-a-vis Chris Christie is, that he talked about raising the retirement age, which led to in New Hampshire, which has tons of senior citizens, right? They're probably like the only active voting bloc. And they totally freaked out. And the Republicans talk about the fact that they do rein in spending, right? And they want to make smart cuts and things like that. And he's actually making a proposal, I think, should go somewhere, and no one's going to back him up on it. So, I mean,
Very good.
May I point something out before you go, Brandon? May I point something out? I might point out that I think Chris Christie's all broken pot because he's obviously been in bags of Doritos and Oreos. I'm just saying.
All right. So, Brandon, what do you think? What do you think, Brandon?
Well, if Chris Christie has upset you on pot or raising the age enough, he'll change his mind and back to something.
All right, guys, one last question. This is a light topic. Hey, maybe it isn't a light topic. A small aircraft lands on the Capitol lawn. So let's go through the last few years. We had people that were able to run up on the lawn without getting stopped. We had people that could run up on the lawn, then get entry into the White House and actually get access to waiters. Now we got people can land small aircraft on the Capitol. What if this was like some terrorist plot that they could get that close and they had some kind of explosive device? I mean, is there any kind of safeguards around the White House? What is the Secret Service? This is something. I'm going to start with you, Brandon. Is there any real Secret Service protection in this area? It seems like this is like a monopoly. Everyone can pass go and keep going around. I don't understand.
Laughing military complex, world version of Risk, where we don't have all these open gates. We spend all this money on all this stuff in post 9/11 world, NSA monitoring. Nash, different things, and this is the kind of nonsense that we've seen over the last few years. It's just embarrassing, and it really concerned. They really got people that need to be held accountable. You know what? Get rid of them. It's a complete waste of money and time if we can't have safeguards in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. Jessica, put this in perspective with there were just Russians that were able to infiltrate Imagine if the information of the daily agenda of the president was he was going to be in the lawn doing some kind of presentation on this particular day, and they said that's the day we're going to do that little helicopter stunt when he's out there with everybody, and boom, we have an explosive device. We just knocked off the president of the U.S. I mean, it isn't so unlikely now when you could see that they got the agenda and they landed a helicopter. So both things were actually done. I mean, does this blow your mind?
Yeah, it totally blows my mind. And I remember thinking back to a speech Leon Panetta gave on the Intrepid. He was heading out of office where he said, you know, the next war is going to be cyberland, right? And, I mean, maybe that's not true. I guess they're having a little bit in Yemen, and he didn't know ISIS was on the way. But, you know, we need to be paying better attention to these things. Frankly, vis-a-vis the Secret Service, I'm just thankful that they're not a Democrat institution, because I'm sure we'd be getting hammered even worse about it. If they were. It's really shameful, and they just actually had a change of the guard. You know, I mean, this isn't something a problem that we didn't know about, and we had, you know, the agents down in Cartagena with their issues and agents all over the world, and it's incredibly disappointing, obviously, and hopefully it gets dealt with.
All right, Rocky D, we're out of time. I'm giving you the final word on this.
Captain Cuckoo lands his little homemade whirlybird from the front steps. He called and told him he was coming, and they split and stopped. It's about this, Secret Service. You wonder how the guy got in and ran down the hallway? Here's an idea for security. Lock the door, you dummies. What's wrong with you people?
We're going to leave it there. I want to thank our great panel, Rocky D, Jessica Tarlov, and Brandon Jones. Folks, come back again another time. I loved it. A total blast.